Hello, thank you for watching this video. So this video is going to be, or it should be the first video for our nutrition series. And today we're going to be talking about why caring about nutrition is important. So that we can set up the future videos so that just so we can set some context around this topic of nutrition. First, I want to say who we are, just in case you aren't familiar with us. We are Latinas Contra Cancer. We are a nonprofit organization in San Jose that was established in 2003 to provide cancer education, patient navigation, and psychosocial support to Latino families that are facing cancer. Our goal is to provide greater access to high quality medical care and to connect with other Latino support agencies. So, first, I want to start with a conversation about why we eat. So, for a lot of us, food represents more than just sustenance for survival. It is a huge part of most, if not all, cultures. It is often our expression of the culture. Food can also be an expression of our own identity. For some of us, food is strongly related to our family. We see our family when we have a party, when we have a get together. There is usually food present, and it can represent comfort and happiness when it reminds us of good times in our lives, like special occasions in our childhood, or sometimes we just really like food because it tastes really good. For me personally, food is all of these things. I am not from Mexico, I am from Costa Rica. And every time I go back to visit, there are always foods I just have to have because they just represent such wonderful and happy memories from my childhood. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with the deep connections we can have to food, but it often obscures and makes us forget the ultimate and primary purpose of food and why we eat. And that is that food at the end of the day is fuel. We eat to survive. What we eat directly powers all of our cells. It powers our brains, it powers our muscles, our hearts, our lungs, our kidneys, everything. So we will talk a little bit more in our future videos in this nutrition series about how certain foods make our body run, but ultimately this is why what we eat affects our health. Everything we eat will interact with our cells one way or another, and in the same way that we can put too little or too much gas in our cars, we can eat too little or too much based on the needs of our bodies. And similarly, if I put, say, coffee in the gas tank of the car instead of gas, it will not meet the gasoline needs of the car for it to work properly. So, what we put in our bodies, what we convert into energy for our cells, will have a large role in our overall health. So, now we're going to talk about Latinos, cancer, and nutrition, how it all connects together. As as Latinas Contra Cancer, we're an organization that focuses on the intersection of cancer health disparities between Latinos, within Latinos. So that's what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to just give a little overview on how nutrition is particularly important for Latinos and how it relates to cancer. So I know this picture looks a little intimidating, but don't worry, I'll walk you through it. So each graph here represents the rates of different cancers and how they have changed over time. So how much cancer we see over time. So you can see that each graph down here goes from 1992 to 2007. So that means that these are the amount of cancer we see throughout these years. And you can see that it's divided by race or ethnicity. So the black line represents the white population, and the dotted lines represent the Hispanic population. Hopefully you can see my little laser pointer here. And then that goes for different cancers. So for example, for breast cancer, we can see that for the black line, so again, the white population, breast cancer has been decreasing. So the black line's decreasing. However, the line for Hispanics is mostly straight. You can see that in 1992, it was right here. It's basically still in the same spot in 2007. So breast cancer rates, we are not decreasing in the Hispanic population. They have stayed the same throughout the years, the past few years, while for the white population, it has been decreasing. So breast cancer is decreasing in the white population, but it's constant in the Hispanic population. This is CRC is colon cancer. You can see that the line for white population again is going down, while the line for Hispanics is straight, meaning it hasn't gone down. So we see the same amount of cancer that we have been seeing, while the cancer cases have been decreasing in the white population. You can see again here for cervical cancer, the Hispanic line is straight. We have not had a huge change in the amount of cancer we see in the amount of cervical cancer that we see in Hispanics. Well, for white population, it's been decreasing. Gallbladder, it's been decreasing for Hispanics, as you can see by this line, but it's still a lot higher than for the white population. So more gallbladder cancer in Hispanics than in white. For the lung, we see more in the white population. It's been decreasing a little for Hispanics. You can also see here gastric cancer, it's higher. The dotted line for Hispanics is higher than the black line for the white population. And it's both are decreasing, but the Hispanic, the line that corresponds to Hispanics is still a lot higher than the white population. So there's a lot more gastric cancer. And there has been for the past few years, a lot more gastric cancer in Hispanics than in white. Liver cancer, it's higher in Hispanics. You can see that it's been increasing for the white population, but it's increasing slowly. The line isn't very steep. It's more flat. While the Hispanic line, it has never gone down. It just keeps going up. So liver cancer continues to be really a lot higher in Hispanics than in white. In this graph, you can see it says mortality rates. So how many people die from these different types of cancer based on ethnic group. So the black bar is Hispanic population, the white bar is white population. You can see that for all these cancers, we have gastric, cervix, gallbladder, liver, and thyroid. For all these cancers, the black bar is higher than the white bar, and some of them a lot higher, like liver and gastric and cervix. They're significantly higher than the white bar. So more Hispanics are dying from these cancers than white. For all cancers, these bars represent all cancers in general. For all cancers, more Hispanics die from cancer than white people. So why might this be? We have some risk factors here. This circle shows some risk factors that increase the risk of cancer. If you're interested a bit more on the explanation of the biology, the biological reasons of why cancer happens, again, not crazy complicated explanations, simple-ish explanations, you can go watch our cancer education presentations that can be found on our website in our health education section. There I go into a bit more detail on the specifics, like cell biology specifics of cancer. But here are some of the environmental factors that lead to that biology that causes cancer. So this circle represents some of those reasons. The biggest chunks of this circle are this blue one and this green one. The blue one shows that it's tobacco, so smoking. So smoking is a huge risk, a huge part of this circle for causing cancer. You can also see that the next biggest one is overweight and obesity. So overweight and obesity and smoking make most of the circle. So they are some of the biggest risk factors for developing cancer. You can also see that this other blue one and purple one correspond to physical inactivity and diet, which are contributors to obesity. So if we group those together and the blue one, that's almost 2/3 of the circle. So almost 2/3 of the risk factors for cancer are smoking and diet related reasons, such as, again, obesity, physical inactivity, and diet. To reiterate some of this, 5 to 10% of cancers are due to genetics, so like family history, but 90 to 95% of other cancer cases are related to lifestyle factors. So a lot of these are lifestyle factors. Environment, for example, that includes things like pollution, medication, infection, sun, reproductive factors, alcohol consumption. But again, the biggest reasons are smoking and diet-related lifestyle factors. It is estimated that obesity and overweight cause approximately 20% of cancer cases. And again, that is not even including this part of the circle, that is diet and physical inactivity, which contribute to obesity. Some more evidence on why obesity is important to consider when thinking about cancer risk. There was this one study that studied adult women, and in this study, women who lost 10 kilograms or more and kept up the weight had a 50% reduction in the risk of breast cancer, while the women who didn't lose the weight or didn't keep off the weight didn't see that. So you can see that losing weight reduces your risk of breast cancer. So why is obesity such a crazy risk factor for cancer? Why is it so important? Why might it contribute to an increased risk in cancer? Well, first of all, here are some of the cancers that it has been linked to. So obesity has been shown that it increases the risk of several types of cancer like colon, endometrium, postmenopausal breast cancer, kidney, esophagus, pancreas, gallbladder, liver, leukemia, and other blood cancers. So many cancers have been can be attributed to um, being caused by factors that are related to obesity. Obesity can also lead to poor treatment outcomes. If you are diagnosed with cancer, it can worsen the disease outcomes. So it might be more severe if you are obese when you are diagnosed with cancer. And it can also increase cancer-related mortality. So somebody that is obese and somebody that might not be obese, the person that's obese might have worse outcomes and might be more likely to die from cancer than the other person. Obesity also increases the risk of type 2 diabetes. It increases the risk of high blood pressure. It increases the risk of heart disease and of premature death. So these are all things that can just put your body on overrun, and it might lead to the development of cancer. Particularly, obesity also affects the immune function and inflammation. It affects the function of important hormones, and it affects factors that regulate cell growth. Again, if you go back to our cancer education videos, I talk about how cell growth and not very regulated cell growth leads to cancer. That's specifically what causes cancer. So obesity messes these regulation. Can cause cells to grow inappropriately. It affects the immune system that's supposed to protect us from cancer cells. So obesity might cause these things to not work properly and therefore lead to cancer. And how is this related to Latinos? Well, you can see here, these graphs show obesity rates by ethnicity. So the yellow, the blue bars, the blue line represents Mexican population, while the red lines represent the white population. You can see here that, and again, sorry, this goes for years from 1976 to 2012. So how those rates of obesity have changed over time. So you can see here that males, the blue line Mexican is higher in the recent years. It's been higher than white. It used to be pretty similar, but white started to decrease, but Mexican continues to grow. So 41% of males 20 to 74 that are Mexican in the US are obese, while obese or overweight, while the white population is only 34%. And you can see the line, it was going up and then it started slowing down. So the rates of obesity in white population have slow down. You can also see that in the female, you can see it was going up, but then it started going down. But for the Mexican population, it continues to grow, 47% for females 20 to 74 years old, while at 32% for white. So a lot higher in the Mexican population than in the white population. Same for younger people, males 12 to 19 are at 27% in the Mexican population versus 17% in the white population. Females, it's a little closer, 20, 17, but you can see that obesity rates are a lot higher in the Mexican Hispanic population than they are in the white population in the United States. You can see here, it just shows you like different countries of origin. Mexican, Puerto Rican, and male Cuban are the ones that are highest. The Mexican male female, Puerto Rican male female, and Cuban male have the highest rates of obesity in the United States. Some have lower than, you can see here, these bars represent the white population. So the bars for Central America, Dominican are lower than the white population. So they have less obesity than in the white population. Mexican, Puerto Rican, Cuban have the highest bars, higher rates of obesity than in the white population. But overall, Hispanics overall in the US have more obesity than the white population. So what might be some reasons for why not only is obesity high in the US, but particularly higher in Latinos than they are in white populations? Well, there are multiple factors that can contribute. Scientists and studies can have studied some of these, and some of the factors include lack of access to healthy foods and lack of access to affording healthy foods among low-income families, barriers to the ability of individuals to be physically active for recreation and transportation in communities. There's also been recent trends towards increasing portion sizes, the cheap and wide availability of high calorie and low nutritional value foods, and the extensive advertising that makes us think that the food we buy is healthy, such as this cereal over here that says whole grain. So it might make us think it's healthy. And all of these are contributors to obesity, and there are many more, but mostly it's environmental factors, as you can see, and lifestyle factors that affect why Hispanics have higher risk of obesity. You can also see here that in the United States, we tend to consume most of the sugar we consume come from sugary drinks, which is the blue one, and the yellow one you can see down here is snacks and sweets. So snacks and sweets and sugary drinks are the things that where we are the places where we consume the most amount of sugar. So not very things that are super necessary, as we will see later in the presentations. Finally, I just want to make a note for nutrition related to children. So again, we just see this disparities between Hispanics and white population in the United States. Children as well have a lot higher rates of obesity in Hispanic population than the white population. You can see here, children 6 to 11 years old. Total, you have here female, male, but overall in the Hispanics total, all these children, there's 25% of them are obese or overweight, while only 14 in the white population are obese or overweight. That's 2 times higher in Hispanics than in the white population. And why is it important to care about nutrition in children? Why is that especially important? It's because obese children are more likely than normal weight children to become obese as adults, and for their obesity in adulthood to be more severe. So if they're obese when they're children, then they grow up, they're more likely to be obese, and for that obesity to be more severe. And again, we learned that obesity significantly increases your risks of developing cancer. Also, early short-term exposures to sugar can increase the preference for them in later years in children. So if a baby is exposed to sweet things, sugar, even if it's not consciously, they can end up really preferring sugar later on, increasing again the risks of obesity and of developing cancer later in life. Some studies showed that children, once they start growing up, like ages 2, 3, 5, and 8 years old, they tend to not accept new foods. So if they really liked sugar or they really were exposed to sugar when they were babies, they're gonna not accept really anything else once they're growing up. And again, that can lead to obesity, that can lead to them being obese once they're adult, and therefore severely increases the risks of developing cancer. So these are all the things that show how nutrition is so important, especially in the Hispanic population, because of these disparities, these wide gap between the risks of obesity and cancer and death because of cancer between Hispanics and the white population. We need to focus on these problems. So that's the goal of this series. You can see here that the next presentation, here's a summary of what the next presentations for our nutrition series is going to be. We're going to talk about what a balanced meal is. We're going to talk about nutrients and digestion. Here's where I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how different foods feed our body and how they sustain our body and give us energy, how they work in our body. Then we're going to talk about how to shop in a supermarket, which might seem simple, but there's actually a lot of things that not a lot of people know, because the companies that make food don't want you to know, right? The like Coca-Cola and all these things, they don't want you to know. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about more specifically nutrition and cancer. So if you're diagnosed with cancer, if you are a cancer survivor, how you can target your nutrition needs to that condition. And then also we're going to have a special video talking about resources for healthy living, specifically for low income households. We want to be conscientious of the fact that not everybody obviously can go out and buy a bunch of food every day, spend $1,000 in food. Of course, we understand, especially right now, the situation is very hard given COVID and the pandemic. So we want to make sure we give resources for how to take all the information I'm going to give you and try to apply it to your income situation. So we're going to give some resources for that and then some tips for saving money and saving time when it comes to food and healthy living. And then we're going to have some live cooking and recipes that we're still thinking about how to do. Could be maybe Facebook Live, but we'll see. But we'll give you some recipes from healthy recipes, again targeted towards low income households, and some live cooking. So please visit us at our website where there's a lot more information and health education there, and look out for our next videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you will take this nutrition information and share it with your family because it's so important.